It is 95 days till the man burns, and today we're talking about bringing an RV, because bringing an RV can be a little bit complicated aside from the whole rental process. And I'm sorry, my chickens are going nuts, so yeah, they're just going to be in the background singing the song of their people. So first up, do not trust the box. Your RV might tell you it's going to sleep 6, and maybe in normal circumstances it would sleep 6, but you are not in normal circumstances. You're going to Burning Man, you're probably going to need that extra space because you're bringing all of your stuff. Everyone coming, you're bringing all of your stuff. It is going to be cramped in there. Now, obviously RVs are expensive. Not all of you are going to be able to just stump up that cash to get a bigger RV, but if it is in your budget, then try and go for a size up. If you are not familiar with your RV, then get familiar with it. Read the manual, figure out how everything works, learn how to empty your tanks. Obviously there's no hookups at Burning Man. You can't hook up water or power or anything like that, so you don't need to know so much about that stuff. But it is worth knowing, how to use your tanks and things like that before you get to Burning Man, and what all the switches and buttons and vents are doing, so that you're not trying to figure that out on the fly. Make sure you understand the generator and how all the power and everything works, so that you don't end up with a dead battery. Because, if you're using the air conditioning and the lights and the fridge, whatever else is being powered by the RV, you may need to run your generator to, keep everything running well. There may be, power constraints on that kind of stuff. So make sure you understand how that is working, whether you need to run your generator every day, how long you need to run the generator for to keep everything running smoothly, and to make sure you don't have a dead battery when you go to leave. If your RV does have some kind of instruction manual with it, it is worth bringing that along with you. And if it doesn't, or if it's just really big and you don't want to bring it, you could make your own little folder of kind of the most important things, like how to check the tanks for leaks, how to empty the tanks, how to fill the tanks, anything that is going to be useful to know. It's also useful to know how to do kind of small repairs on your RV. The alkaline dust is very, very harsh, especially on things like rubber parts, like hoses and things. So it would be helpful to know how to do that, and your air filters as well. It's useful to know how to change your air filters because they're going to get full of dust. And that's kind of harsh on the RV, and so, if you can change them when you are leaving, once you get to an area that isn't full of dust, you can change out their air filter and it's just going to be much easier. Obviously, it's going to be pretty useless to learn how to do those things if you don't bring the spare parts with you don't bring any tools with you to be able to do it. And a lot of people that come in RVs do bring along a small repair kit and some spare parts for anything that they think, possibly could go wrong with the RV. Before you go to Burning Man, you want to make sure that everything is working properly, and especially the grey and the black water tanks. You do not want those leaking while you're out there. It could really cause you problems. So whether it's rented or you own it, have a drive around, check your tanks, make sure that everything is working how it should be, that there's no weird, clunky things or things that shouldn't be happening. There's kind of a divide where some people say that you should take your RV for a checkup before Burning Man because, it's going to be getting some heavy use, so you really don't want it to break down. But other people say you should leave it till afterwards because the environment is so harsh on it that it's better to just get it checked over afterwards. So it really depends on kind of the state of your RV, whether it's in good working order already, whether it's kind of a bit old and clunky and needs a checkup. If it's in good working order, everything's fine, everything's fine, then, you might be fine to just get it checked out after Burning Man, make sure that, everything's okay. But if it's kind of old, if it hasn't had a checkup for a while, maybe get a checkup before you go. You want to tape up your RV. Any seams, any entry point for dust to get in, you're going to want to tape it up, otherwise your RV is going to get full of dust pretty quickly. The most common thing to use is exterior painter's tape. You don't want the interior one, it's not going to be sticky enough. You want the exterior one because, it's designed to be outside. And I would avoid using anything like duct tape or gaffer tape. The heat makes the kind of sticky side of the tape transfer onto the RV. And, cleaning your RV is enough of a nightmare without having to try and get all of this sticky residue off of every seam. Taping up things like the rubber seals around windows is also a great idea because the dust is very harsh on the rubber. And it means, the window is kind of sealed off properly, dust can't get in there. And it will just make it a bit easier to clean. It's kind of difficult to get the dust off the rubber. You want to pay attention to anywhere where there's electronics that the dust could get into, because usually the electronics are in some kind of, hollowed out patch. And so if dust can get in there, it's going to fill it up, and the dust is corrosive. It's really, really bad for electronics. So anything like that, pay, extra attention. Make sure you're sealing up any entry points that lead to anything electronic. If you have things like vents that you can't really tape up, or you don't want to tape them up, you can create kind of covers to go over them. A lot of people just use like bandanas and things like taped over the vents to prevent dust getting in that way. And obviously it's not foolproof, dust will still probably get in through those bandanas, but it's going to be hugely reduced compared to if you just left them open. A lot of the dust that ends up inside RVs comes in on people's shoes. They just track it straight in. So you'll probably want to implement a no shoe policy, or at the very least have people kind of tap their boots before they come in to get the bulk of the dust off. And if you really want to protect the floors, you can get plastic covers, the ones that painters use. I think it's called like carpet film or carpet protector or protection. You just put it over the floor, and when you lift it up, theoretically the dust should not have managed to kind of get under it. With your seats and beds and things like that, if you're trying to keep the dust off of those, then using sheets or any kind of fabric that you can put over them is going to give them some protection. But it can be a bit hard because you don't want to spend your whole time at Burning Man when you're in your RV trying to make sure that sheet hasn't fallen off and that everything's covered and protected, and you feel like you're in Walter White's caravan. Even though you don't want a ton of dust ending up in the RV because it's going to be a pain to clean it out and can just make things a bit nasty, equally you don't want to spend your whole time like fretting about whether the sheet's on the seats. If you are feeling quite stressed about that, then maybe consider a way of actually temporarily attaching the covers to the seats so that they're not falling off all the time. One way to kind of do it is to make sure that the sheets are much larger than what they're covering, so you can hang them over, and then there's kind of much more give in the fabric when people are sitting or moving around. It's not going to instantly fall off. You want to keep the doors closed as much as possible. There probably will be times when you want a bit of air circulation going on inside the RV, so just pick your times when you're going to have your door open. Make sure there's no wind and there's not just tons of dust blowing in. If you can orient your RV so that the door is facing away from the wind, so if the wind's going this way, the door faces this way, that's going to help. But, wind direction can change. There's no guarantee that the wind direction will stay the same. If your RV has like a pop-out awning thing, be super careful with that. Burning Man can get really strong winds really, really suddenly, and they're kind of strong enough to rip that awning off. So either keep it closed or, like with the door, just kind of pick your moments when you're going to have that open. But I wouldn't rely on the awning as your only shade for outside if you, kind of want to be sitting outside and stuff, because you might find that you can't really use it that much. Also, they're a pain to clean because, it's kind of fabric-y. RVs need a lot of juice, so you're going to want to make sure that the petrol tank is nice and full. You want to fill up as close to Burning Man as you can. And some of the petrol stations that are closer to Burning Man run out of petrol because, there's a lot of people all coming at the same time, and, a lot of people have the same idea that it's best to fill up as close to Burning Man as possible. So I would suggest filling up before you leave, the most populated area you're in, so probably Reno. And then if you can stop at a petrol station on the way, just fill up that little bit that you need to fill up. Make sure that you have some kind of car insurance, some kind of roadside assistance cover, because If your RV breaks down at Burning Man, it's going to cost a lot of money to get it towed. I had a look online and people were saying it's somewhere around $1,500 just to tow it. And I'm pretty sure you can get roadside assistance cover cheaper than that. So it's really worth getting it just to be on the safe side. You don't want to end like an amazing week at Burning Man with having to shell out that kind of cash. Once Burning Man is over, it's time to drive away. You will want to clean your RV as soon as you can. The longer you leave all that dust on it, the harder it's going to be to clean it off. And for a lot of people, if you're renting your RV, it's going to be a bit more tricky because it's not like you're just taking it home and cleaning it where you have all of the supplies you'll need. You'll probably be cleaning it at a garage or something. You can pay people to do it for you at the garages, but it is expensive. So a lot of you are probably going to want to do it yourself. You really want to clean every part of your RV. You want to get the dust off of everything, you know, the underneath, the tires, the insides, like everything. The player dust is bad for everything. And for particularly stubborn parts, a vinegar water solution will work great because it's going to cut through all of the alkaline player dust. And obviously vinegar is really cheap, so it's a really nice solution for cleaning your RV with. But a lot of people that go in RVs say, you know, it does take like hours to clean it. Sometimes you need to clean it multiple times to really get it to where you want to be, especially, you know, if it's rented and you're trying to get that cleaning deposit back. If you're going to use the vinegar water solution on anything that's fabric, make sure that you do a small patch test first to make sure it's not going to discolor the fabric or stain it or do anything that you don't want it to do. If you own your RV or you've rented it, for longer after Burning Man, you really want to get it cleaned as soon as possible. Don't just let it kind of be dusty and gross outside for a week or two until you get round to it. It is the kind of thing you want to get done ASAP. So I hope this was helpful, guys. If any of the rest of you have any tips or advice or suggestions or anything for people coming in RVs, how to make sure they survive the trip, then let us know in the comment section below. And if you see me at Burning Man this year, feel free to come and say hi to me. Bye, guys.